Hello and welcome back to my channel. Before I dive into today's topic, I want to offer you a warm hello and a thank you for being here. And a special shout out to all 100 of my subscribers. You inspire me to continue going down this rabbit hole. And the fact that you're interested in my content makes me interested in you. Leave me a comment and tell me something about yourself, like where you live or why you're here. And stick around for the end of this video. I think you'll like this one. Imagine this scene. I was 18, a freshman in college, and I was sitting in introduction to philosophy class. I had just chopped off my long hair into an edgy bob. I was wearing a t-shirt with a picture of a scientist exhaling a galaxy, and my wrist donned a collection of colorful bracelets I had picked up along the course of my travels. Yet I was completely and utterly lost. I grew up without structure and, in many ways, a chaotic and unpredictable environment. Consequently, I was stewing in a soup of negative emotions, and I was susceptible to bouts of depression and melancholy. I was an English major at the time, and there was something about stepping out of my mind and into the thoughts of another, something to interpreting ambiguity in text, and something to exploring the texture of the human experience and debating it with my colleagues that I loved very much. That was all very fun, but I still lacked direction until I found philosophy. Philosophy grounded these discussions about the human experience and made them personal. It urged me to not step out of my body and mind and into another, a form of escapism, if you will, but to be present in my own and to think about how the many facets of human existence pertain to me and my life. I was very lucky to have an incredible philosophy professor who conveyed this to me. He was passionate and vigorous and instilled in his students, in us, the urgency of living a philosophical life. It wouldn't be all rainbows and butterflies, he wisely warned us, and in fact, it would make life more challenging in many ways, and he was right. But nothing great is easy. Today, I don't feel lost. In fact, I feel grounded, clear, and content for the most part. And I owe much of that to choosing to study the discipline of philosophy. Now let's get into what I consider to be the 3 promises and perils of living a philosophical life. Number 1, you will inevitably lay down an enduring moral and spiritual foundation. I didn't know this at the time, but one of the reasons why I was so lost as a rebellious teenager was because I had nothing that grounded me. I was a leaf, directionless, blowing with the whims of the wind. Now, don't get me wrong, across all of my adventures, I had a ton of fun, and I can forever say that I gained so much life experience throughout those years. Even if I made some really poor decisions, I wouldn't be who I am today without that period of unfettered exploration. But even then, one must have a home to return to, and by home I mean a foundation. One must become a philosophical architect of sorts. Any structure, even if it's the most modern, ingenious, and expensive, will crumble if the foundation is unstable. A strong foundation is the key to stability, both for buildings and for life. For example, philosophy students typically have the opportunity to study world religions as part of our standard curriculum. I visited temples, mosques, and cathedrals around the world with a notebook, a pen, and an open mind, and I was able to adopt a pluralistic mindset, meaning I chose the principles that I liked from each and incorporated them into my life and discarded those that I didn't without having to subscribe to any religion in particular. I also learned that while the metaphysical systems of religions might be different, the ethical systems are all really saying the same thing: to have a moral compass, to be a generous and benevolent person, and to believe in something greater than yourself, whether that's God, the universe, nature at large, or at the very least, the human collective. And if spirituality isn't your cup of tea, that's okay too. The philosophical life will still afford you a basic moral compass, a guide about what is right and what is wrong, both on the grand scale and in the granular details of your day-to-day decision making. There is no checklist per se, but you will develop an intuition for morality, and that is a promise. Number 2, you will begin to question and overthink everything, for better or for worse. Philosophers often say that living a philosophical life is both a blessing and a curse. We're trained to think critically. We learn to detect the rhetorical devices and fallacies we are fed by our interlocutors, advertisements, and the media. And we learn that everything we know or think we know is pretty much subjective. On the bright side, this intellectual toolbox will bump you over the bell curve and into the above average group of human intelligence. And this is not to preach that philosophers are smarter or better than everyone else, but rather that we are equipped to maintain a skeptical frame of mind so that we don't just believe everything we read and hear, and we maintain a healthy level of curiosity at all times. On the not so bright side, you will become much more existential. You'll start to ruminate on mortality, your upbringing or relationships, and to go on a bit of a rant, you'll start to ruminate on the incredible amount of waste and destruction that humans generate. When I imagine all the products that are being mass generated at any given moment, the plastic, the fast fashion, the garbage, when I think about the lack of integrity in our food industry, how recklessly meat, dairy, and crops are produced, when I think about the existential threat of climate change, well, but I am optimistic. I think with each passing generation, we are learning to phase out some of our destructive practices and to make more sustainable choices as a species. I do like to think that during my lifetime, I will see my generation and those thereafter turn this ship around and sail toward a more sustainable horizon. All of that is to say that while this existential awareness may cause some anxiety, it also urges me to make better choices in how I spend my money, the company that I keep, and how I live my life. And that autonomy is liberating. Number 3, you will be a trailblazer or an outsider, depending on how you look at it. If you've ever read Aristotle's Nicomachean Ethics, Boethius's Consolation of Philosophy, or any Buddhist or Stoic philosophy, you will quickly learn the age-old wisdom that the status symbols that most humans are wired or conditioned to chase, money, fame, and glory, those are not going to bring you true happiness. Instead, you learn that true happiness comes from within, from meaningful relationships and experiences, and from purpose. The details on what that entails will change from philosopher to philosopher, but the theme is common. You will likely want to escape the hustle and bustle of a fast-paced life in exchange for a slower, more simple life. For women especially, you might begin to repudiate the idea that you have to marry a rich and successful man, and instead to seek your equal, your confidant, and your true life companion. You might reject the idea that you have to surround yourself with status symbols in order to project a message to others. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to surround yourself with beautiful things and experiences. I certainly do. But I also understand that material items have a diminishing return. Instead, I recognize that the pleasure that I derive from cultivating hobbies that challenge me, exploring my creativity, and seeking meaningful experiences through travel and conversation is much more enduring. Choosing this alternative path can be isolating when the stampede is headed in the other direction. For them, that path is clearly defined because the vegetation has eroded from the abundance of footsteps traveling on that route. This path, however, the philosophical path, is much less crowded. The path is wild because the vegetation is still growing, and you might even encounter some creatures along the way because they haven't been frightened away by the horde. You'll also encounter fewer but more like-minded travelers in which you might stop and smell the roses with. And that, my friends, are the 3 promises and perils of a philosophical life. Have your experiences been similar to mine? I'd love to know. I'm always looking to expand my philosophical community, so please reveal yourself by leaving a comment below and sharing your experience with the philosophical life, and liking this video and subscribing to my channel. I have so many videos planned for you all. Thank you so much for being here. I honor you, and I'll see you next time.